So, Raúl, tell us, how did you get into this?
Into this, well, here's the thing. I love comic books and I love picture books. And I believe that the reason why I am here today is because that art form was so readily accessible to me growing up in El Paso and Juarez. And what I mean by that is the library was such a special place for me and my two brothers and my family, as a matter of fact. So my mom was an immigrant from Mexico, and for whatever reason, I'm not even sure why. Actually, I do know why. Do you want me to tell you why? Yes. So when I was a little kid, my mom was raising me and my two brothers, and she was a very young mom, and my dad would usually be out and about. He was a door-to-door salesman selling insurance, and often my mom could not figure out what to do with us. And I don't know if your parents have ever said this, but my mom would say things like, "Ya no sé qué hacer con estos niños." Who knows what that means? What does that mean?
I don't know what to do with these kids.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know what to do with these kids. And so, lo and behold, one day she discovered that there was a library not too far from our house. And we wandered in, and during that point in my life, yo no hablaba español. Mi mamá, I'm sorry. Yo hablaba español. Yo no hablaba inglés. Mi mamá no hablaba inglés. Mis dos hermanos, ellos tampoco no hablaban inglés. We didn't speak English, but those librarians, they welcomed us with open arms. And they started recommending all kinds of books to us. And of course, since I didn't speak English, the first books that I gravitated to were the ones with amazing pictures in them. And drawing became almost one of the very first languages I learned how to draw. Because drawing is a language you don't speak, you draw it, right? And so I started to just copy all kinds of drawings from the books that I would pick up from the shelf. So you might even see it in my style. Like if you look at my drawings, you might even see how these artists influenced me. So I would copy drawings from Maurice Sendak, from Richard Scarry, from artists like Edward Gorey, who illustrated books by John Bellairs. The titles were amazing. The Eyes with a Killer, the Robot, or The Killer with, oh God, I forgot the name of this book. Let me go back to another title. It was The House with a Clock in its Walls, and they were illustrated by Edward Gorey. And I would copy all of these drawings, which led me to my discovery of comic books, So as a kid, since the library had introduced me to these amazing books, I started to always be on the lookout for books wherever I may find them. And the library was my first introduction to books, but then as a kid, since I was always searching for books, I discovered that there was an art museum not too far from my house. And it was an art museum that was filled with all kinds of interesting artwork. And this museum, you'll laugh when you hear what the museum was called, but it was my museum. It was where I would go to learn about comic book art. And this museum was called 7-Eleven. Yeah. And that's where I would go every day, and I would look through the spinner rack. I would pick up different titles, and I'd spend a lot of time at this museum until my dad said, "Oye, mijo, what are you doing at the 7-Eleven for so long?" And I just told him, I discovered this brand new art form that I think I'm in love with, and he started giving me a few quarters every once and again, and I would now bring those comic books home, and I would copy drawings from that. Hey, good to see you.
Hello, everybody. How's it going? Raúl, thank you very much for coming through.
Yeah.
I appreciate you. Actually answered my first question, so I'm glad we got your origin story.
Yeah, that's my origin story. Yeah.
That's excellent. And just like you, I discovered comics at a museum called Highs.
What was it?
Highs.
What is highs?
Same thing, 7-Eleven convenience store. It doesn't exist anymore here, I don't think. Some of you guys might have in other areas, but
We all have our different versions of this museum, don't we?
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
So that's what I loved about this art form. Is you could find it in the strangest places where you would not expect to find this art. There it was, and that's really why I became a comic book artist, I believe. Yeah.
No, absolutely. No, I miss spinner racks.
I do too, But I think that's what our libraries are doing so well now, and school libraries. While you might not be able to find a comic book at the spinner rack anymore at the 7-Eleven, now, I don't know if you've been to your library recently, but they're basically like comic book shops. There's shelves upon shelves of comic books, and not just from artists here in the United States, but you also find comic books from artists from all over the world. Japan, there's great French cartoonists, there's Belgian cartoonists, and they're all there in the new spinner racks at our library and, of course, our school libraries. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So I actually want to kind of start off with an anecdote more than a question.
Okay.
Something that we talked about a little bit before. So I actually read this book to my 1-year-old. And he didn't understand everything, right? But he really enjoyed the sound effects, right? Which is a big part of comics in a lot of ways.
Absolutely,
right?
yeah.
But one thing in particular he enjoyed was the rooster.
Oh, the rooster's great, yeah.
Which, no spoilers, but bookends the book, essentially.
Yeah.
And I found it so interesting, in fact, that I was like, there has to be a cultural aspect to this.
Yeah.
And so it kind of made me do a deep dive. And what I discovered, actually, I think kind of it explains the book perfectly. Because it was saying, the thing I read, and this is the internet, this is all Wikipedia stuff, right? But it said in Mexican culture, the rooster represents courage, tradition, and mischief.
Yeah.
And I think that describes this book perfectly.
Yeah, I think it's a great description of the book, The Rooster. And I use the rooster in almost every single one of my books. Matter of fact, if you have ever read one of my Vamos books, every single Vamos book, the first page, which is the title page, right? It starts off with Kooky. My rooster's named Kooky Dookie. Can you say that out loud for me? Yeah, Kooky Dookie. Kooky Dookie opens every single World of Vamos book, and he shouts out the title. But I have a really close connection to roosters because my grandmother always had them in the backyard, and they were scary. They're very brave. They're also very temperamental, and they're also very annoyingly so punctual. Every morning, you're like, oh my God, do I have to listen to this guy crow every morning? And my abuelita would ask me, oye, ¿qué dicen los gallos? And I would say, no sé, abuelita, ¿qué dicen? She actually helped me create the name for that rooster. She would say, los gallos dicen, kukiruki. No.
I love it. So I just want to thank you for that because I got two memories from that, right? I have sharing with my kid, and then on top of that, you kind of did what I think fiction should do, which is kind of make me do a little bit of a deeper dive. So I appreciate that very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I want to ask you, what made you want to focus on barbershop, and we call everything culture now. I guess we can say barbershop culture.
Yeah.
What made you want to focus on that?
Well, it's funny because, I became obsessed with wanting to be a comic book artist ever since I was, I think I decided my career path like when I turned about 12 years old. There's this picture that I share quite often. It's of me standing in front of my kitchen where my mom had let me draw this enormous drawing of The Thing and Spider-Man. And eventually I realized that if I was going to become a comic book creator, that I had to figure out a way to create my own characters, And I remember as a kid, I became very frustrated, and actually I was a little upset that all of the good animal names had been taken. I couldn't use spiders because Spider-Man was already taken. I couldn't use bats because there was a Batman. And I was like, well, what does that leave me with? I can't use the word super or mighty so I started to kind of observe and look around my community. And I started to create characters that were based on animals that I had in my community, which were one of my first characters that I ever created were the 5 Furious Fire Ants, which was my TMNT, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle ripoff. But also my uncle's father was a barber. And I always loved all of the different set pieces that he had within his barbershop, the barbershop chairs, the scissors, the combs, the smell. And I also loved all of the punny names that I would capture with all the different barbershops around town, like the Bushwhacker or Princess Nails, the Hair Weaver. And I would just collect all of these names, and I thought, these all sound like either really cool superhero names or the names of villains. And I started to fill just kind of my sketchbook with ways that I could translate these barber-like iconography into a superhero universe. Yeah.
Can we talk about Scissor City? I thought that was a very interesting concept. Like, overall, how did you go about conceptualizing that? Because it's like, it has a theme.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of barbershop aspects of it that kind of play into it.
Yeah, so Scissor City is the city where the Snips are headquartered. And basically, I was just trying to find any possible way to use whatever barbers use in the city. So for instance, there's 4 barbers. There's Casco, hard hat. There's Nubes, cloud head. There's Patty Pomada. And there's Leti Lentes. And each of them has like a unique power. For instance, Patty Pomada, she's the inventor of the group. And since she's the inventor of the group, she creates all of the different gadgets for the team. And the gadgets are pretty awesome. For instance, there's sonic scissor jets. Haven't you ever looked at a pair of scissors and just imagine it just flying through the air like a jet? How many of you have ever imagined that before? Yeah, you see? All of you did. And I would look at barber poles, and I thought, look at these cool barber poles. What if Patty, actually Patty told me, Raúl, I'm going to invent a barber pole jetpacks. And so they zip through the city in barber pole jetpacks. Then there's, I was just having fun with all of the barber iconography. It was amazing, just learning about barber poles and barbershop history. I had a great time creating the universe and, of course, Scissor City.
I want to point out for the parents in the room, yes, kids, do not play with scissors.
Don't do that.
Actually, which character is your favorite? Can I just say that Nubis is my favorite?
Oh, you really love
his design. I love the arms. I love the hair. All of that.
Yeah. So can I actually draw my favorite character? Would you guys like to see me draw one of these characters? All right. So I really enjoy drawing these characters. And how many of you in this room enjoy drawing? Just one of you? Wait, oh yeah, whoa, that's a lot of you. I love seeing all those hands going up. But when I created these characters, I really wanted to create characters that would be very easy for you to draw. You see, when I started to learn how to be a cartoonist, I realized, cartooning is just like addition. You start with a shape, and then you add other simple shapes to that one simple shape, and before you know it, voila, what do you have? A drawing of a character. So every single I'm going to trip over this thing, aren't I? Every single character in the world of Vamos, not the world of Vamos, in the world of the Snips, my friend Jerry, he's always saying, you're the series guy. You have so many series. And I get them confused sometimes. So every character in the Snips, they are as easy as drawing a circle. That's the first step for every single Snips character. You like Nubis Cloudhead? I love Nubis Cloudhead as well. In my family, my dad, he has the bushiest head of hair. My brother Ruben, when he was a kid, you could never see his eyes because his hair was just this big, bushy hair, and look at my hair, you know? But Nubis Cloudhead, all that you have to do if you want to draw him is you go in there, you draw that circle, you draw an oval right in the middle of his head. You give him a nice smile. I really like characters with gaps in their teeth. I don't know why. It's something I like. So you draw his little corn kernels, which I call teeth. You give him a nice little gap. And this is the fun part. How many of you know how to draw a cloud? You could draw any cloud you want. And before you know it, and after you spend like 5 hours filling in his hair, who do you have? Nubis Cloudhead. Why is he named Nubis Cloudhead? What does Nubis mean in Spanish? Cloud. So it's basically a translation, Nubis and Cloudhead. Then we'll talk about the other ones later, but that's also my favorite character.
That's
you know?
Your favorite? Yeah.
Yeah, and what I like about him is he loves playing video games, and he's also kind of like the tech guy in the group. So usually you'll find him giving people virtual haircuts with his barber drones. It's pretty awesome.
No, I think one of the things I like about Nubis is actually because he looks like he's fun to draw.
Very fun to draw.
Right.
Yeah,
Like,
he has like these barber pole wrist guards like Iron Man does, you know?
Right.
Yeah, it's pretty great.
It looks like a fun character to draw.
Yeah.
One more anecdote, but also it's followed by a question.
Yeah.
I did go to my barber last week.
Okay.
I told him about Snips. He has 3 kids of his own.
Yeah.
They're probably the perfect age for this. And I actually mentioned to him that there's this factoid in there that I didn't know about barbers. Is that they were more like doctors at one point in time.
Yeah.
And he kind of looked at me and he was like, that's like barber school 101. So like you impressed him. But I wanted to know more about the factoids. Like, what did you do to research these things, or are these just things that you just knew?
Yeah.
Like, how did you come across this stuff?
So I don't know if you can, if you're looking at the cover, right? And so you'll notice Nubis Cloudhead. On his wrists, he has these barber poles. So I wondered to myself, what is the significance of the barber pole? Why is it red, white, and blue? Is it because is it patriotic? Is it about the American flag? You know, I have these questions. And then I did a little deep dive, and I realized the history is much darker than the American flag. So, for instance, do you want me to tell you about it? All right. Who wants to know about the barber pole? Okay. So, have you ever seen a barber pole hanging outside of a barber shop? Who here has seen that? All right. So, now, if you ever look, you'll notice at the very top of the barber pole, there is a little knob. Who here has ever seen that knob before? Okay. So, now imagine you walk into the barber shop way back in the dark ages, you know, let's say 1500. You're feeling a little ill. The guy at the barber says, you know what I think? I think you need some new blood. You need to get rid of your old blood so you could grow some new blood. And so what they would do is they would unscrew the top of the barber pole, they would grab a leech, and they would attach it to your body, and it would suck out all of that bad blood from you. Then there would be blood, so that's what the red stripe stands for. The blue stands for the veins in your body, and then the white stripe, well, what do you need after all of this is said and done? Bandages. So that's the significance of the white stripe. So that's barbershop 101. Yeah, barbers back then, not only did they cut your hair or give you a close shave, but if you were feeling sick, you could go in there and they would take care of that. They would bandage you up. They also did knife sharpening, and they would pull out a tooth or two if you needed that done for yourself. Yeah.
That all sounds.
How many of you have ever gone to your barber for any one of those reasons? No one? What the?
A few years ago, there was a book called Axe Cop. And one of the things I found really fascinating about that book is the author wrote it with his son.
Okay.
And so you kind of get all these wild, imaginative things when you work with your kids on things, right?
Absolutely.
You did the same thing on Snips, from what I read.
Yeah.
Can you talk about that? Like, what was that like?
Yeah, so my son's 15 now, so gone are those days when, we would just brainstorm back and forth. But, as working in children's lit and writing picture books and board books and early readers and now the Snips, one of the best test audiences you can possibly have is your own kid and their friends. And also, the imagination can go in any direction you want it to go. And so just sharing ideas with my son and his friends was just so eye-opening, always, just because you realize that you do not have to stick very closely to the parameters of reality. You can just take your ideas and go in any direction you want to go in. And so I think that really was the benefit for me, sharing my work, ideas with my son, and having him share ideas back with me. It's just a conversation. And that's really what creating artwork is, right? It's a conversation with your audience, of people who are reading your books, but it's also a conversation with past creators who have made books in the past, and you're just kind of adding to everything, yeah.
Especially the language of comics, so
yeah.
Absolutely. If there's one thing that readers can take away from this book, what do you hope that would be?
Well, there's a dedication in this book. And so I dedicated this book. It says, I don't remember exactly what it says, but it says something. I drew this book pretending I was Jack Kirby, Bernie Wrightson, Osamu Tezuka, Ub Iwerks, because they helped to inspire basically my entire, and there's so many more artists, my entire career, but especially this book. And when kids or my readers read this dedication, they might be able, once they begin to read the graphic novel, they'll be able to see how these artists influenced a lot of the different directions I took when both writing and illustrating this book. They might look at a character, like one of the villains is named the Unruly Hair Thing, and they'll think, well, where did that come from? And they might say, well, maybe that was inspired by the Swamp Thing. And then they might do some research and say, well, who created the Swamp Thing? Oh, that was created by Len Wein and Bernie Wrightson. Oh, that's why Bernie Wrightson's name is in that book. And so I really love cartooning, and I really love creating comic books. And I just want everybody to know that if you're inspired by my drawings and my story, you can take this book home with you. You can read it. You could pore through the details. And you could even open it up next to you with a blank sheet of paper and learn how to draw from it, So that's what I did, and I'm sure that's what you're going to do. And your drawing style is going to end up becoming a combination of all of the wonderful artists you were inspired by as, you read your own comics. Yeah.
I love the idea of Snips being a gateway to Alan Moore.
yeah, exactly.
I find that very amusing. I was going to open up to everybody out here. If you had a question that you had for Raúl, now's the time to ask. We only have a few more minutes left, so yeah, if you want to know anything about Snips directly from the author, please ask now. You can raise your hand and I'll pick you.
Yes, my friend.
As a child, what was the Snips like when they were like in preschool years?
Oh, what were they like? Well, you know, in book number 2, it's called The Snips Enter the Wigmaster. There's this origin story to Casco Hardhat. Casco Hardhat is one of the main characters in the story, and he's always wearing wigs. And when he was a kid, his hair never came out, so it shows how he used his dome as a canvas to begin designing all kinds of different hairstyles that he could wear on his head. So that's one of the characters. That's what he was like when he was in preschool. Thank you for the question.
Young lady in the front, you had a question?
Yes.
What is the deal with the person that's green? Is what she's holding like a scorpion tail or a rope?
Oh, that's Leti Lentes, and she travels around the world searching for ancient barber artifacts. Anything to do with hair, she's on the search for it. And what she's holding in her hand is la trenza. You know what a trenza is? That's a braid. La trenza de Medusa. And she could wrap it around people and turn them into living stone. It's pretty awesome. She also has an amazing collection of plants and flowers, and she creates all sorts of interesting colors for hair dyes and nail polish. She has one color which I really like. It's called Toxic Rainbow. Pretty cool color. Yeah.
Were there any other questions? I see a hand back here.
Ooh, writer's block. That's a great question.
Good question.
You know what I love about being a creator, being an artist, is you start to realize that ideas are just everywhere. And so one of the best ways to deal with writer's block, if I ever have this moment in my day where I just can't figure out what to do, best thing to do is just stop creating for a little bit, you know? Don't worry about it. Go for a long walk. Go watch a movie. Listen to one of your favorite records, whatever the case may be. And I promise you, your brain, while you're doing all this other cool stuff, it's going to come up with a solution, and you're going to be able to move forward.
Have a nice day. Can I take a picture with my phone before I leave?
Absolutely, you can take a picture.
Unfortunately, it looks like we're out of time.
Oh.
But
No picture. No, just
you
kidding.
can take a picture. But Raúl, you have a signing after this, don't you?
Yes, I think I do, yeah.
Okay. So you will have a chance to talk to Raúl later in the day. I think it's at 12:45, so you got a little bit of a break before that starts. I think it's at 12:45.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Can you keep this? Yes, you can. Let me sign it for you, my friend.